Yes, you are welcome to Enzo Tech YouTube channel where we teach you technologies. Today we want to look at modules, import and export in JavaScript, how we can decentralize our code. Now, what is a module? A module enables you to separate your code into different files in JavaScript. So let's see how we can do that. So let's get started. So I'm going to come here and import. I have a file called index.html and I have another file called index.js. On a norm, if you want to import this index.js in JavaScript, you come here and use the script source. Then you type index.js. This is how we import JavaScript code into our HTML. Now, we want to get our code decentralized. We want to separate our code so that we don't want this index.html to be populated with some text, with some tags, with some code. So how do we do that? Let's now look how to do that. The first thing we need to do first is to let's create a separate folder. I'll create a separate folder. I'll call this folder, let me call it JS folder. Inside this JS folder, I'll create a file. I'll call this anything. I can call this anything. Let me call this variables.js. Let me create another file inside the JS folder. I'll call this functions.js. Okay, I've just done that. So after doing this, the next thing I want to do in my index.html, I'll come here. Now, for us to make our code to be decentralized, to be separated, we have in JavaScript we have to include the type as module here. So here I'll come here and I'll put my type as module. Yeah, without doing this, you cannot be able to use external files. So the next thing I want to do now, after doing this, I'll save this. After doing this now, next thing is to go to my variables.js. Then let me come here and write some JavaScript code. I'll come here and say cons let me come here and say cons number1 equal to 30. Then cons number2 equal to, oh sorry, there are two number1 here, so let me take this off. Number 2 equal to 20. This is my variables. Cons number1 equal to 30, cons number 2 having a value of 20. If I want to play with this inside my index.js, you can remember that my index.js is blank, and if we go open our index.html on the live server, you won't see anything on the console. So let me now import these variables, which is number 1 and 2, into my index.js. So let me see, you can see this is what we have. Let me open my console at the right hand side so you can see that better. So this is my console at the right hand side, nothing is here. So I'll come here, I'll do this. So first, there are two ways by which we export variables or any other stuff into JavaScript. There are two ways by which we export it. The first way, we're going to put that inline. I'll put export, and I'll write the keyword exports here too, meaning I want to export individual variables, these individual variables, so where it is needed. And where is it needed? It's needed in the index.js. So I'll come here and I will import it. So how do we import? We do this, the keyword imports, then we put a curly brace, then the variable that we are importing, remember we are importing number 1, then number 2. From where the parts, this is the parts is coming from, the parts. Now you're going to put the part is JS is a folder. Remember, this is the folder called JS / the variable file, which is variables.js, then variable.js. Now in reality, you don't need to put the extension .js, but since we are dealing with JavaScript, I have to put .js because that is the file. variables.js. So I have successfully imported my variables, which are number 1 and number 2. I've successfully imported them into this. Let me make this to be capital and small letter. Then I make that yes with small letter. Okay, so now that we've imported it, let's see if it's working. I will console.log number 1 so that you can see that it's working. So if I save this, remember that our number 1 is 30 here. So in the index.js, I imported it and I want to console.log it. So let's go to our console. You can see we have 30 here on the console. You can see that for yourself. So if I reference the second one, if I console.log the second one, which is console.log number 2. Number 2 is 20. So if I save this, I should be getting 20 on my console. You can see 20. You can see it all worked. So I have successfully imported those two variables into my index.js, and it's showing. So if I want to also make it, if I want to play with it different on the console, if I want it to show, I can also do the same thing there. So you get how that work. So the next thing I want to do now is to create a function. We have functions.js. So let's create a function. But before we create a function, let me show you another way by which you can export this. Now this method looks so not too wonderful. Let me use that word, because what if I have 50, like 100 variables? Will I start naming each one of them export cons, export cons, export cons, export cons? That would be redundant. So to avoid redundancy, I can easily take this out, take this keyword export out, so that in case I have multiple or 100 of variables, I can come here and say export, then I put a curly brace, then I'll list the variables number 1 and number 2. This is a better way of doing it. So if I save this and go to the browser, I should soon get the same result. You can see that 30 and 20 on the console. So you see, that is the way we use the exports and the imports keywords, how we do that. So it's the same thing similar to functions. So I'll create a function. Here. I'll call this function add num. So I will add 2 parameters here. Let's call this a and b. So this function will return the addition of 2 numbers, which are a plus b. So this is a function. So I'll use the first method which I taught you, which is exporting inlinely. Export this. Then I'll go to my index.js. So yeah, I'll come here and call the function here. So let me put the function into a variable so I can call it. I'll call this my add equal to, then remember this is a function, the name is add num. So I'll invoke it here. I'll say add num, which takes in 2 parameters. So I'll pass in 2 arguments here, which are number 1 and number 2. Remember that our number 1 on the console was 30, our number 2 on the console was 20. So let me console.log the variable, the function. So I'll come here and I'll say console.log my hard. So I'll save this and go to the console. So you can see we have 50 on the console. You can see that's work 50 on the console. So since we are able to do that, let's now use the other method also, which is the same thing. You can just come here and just with exports, then you call this add num. So you see how this work. You can see add num, then it was imported for us. You can see the import of the add num. So this is I believe you understand how this works. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel Enzo Tech for more videos on any technology. So this is how we're able to use the modules, exports and imports. Thank you very much. I'll see you in another video. Thanks.